Imagine giving two people the same $1. One person spends it immediately, the other person turns that same dollar into $100, then $1,000, then $100,000. Same dollar, different outcome. And the scary part? The difference isn't intelligence, luck, or even how hard they work. It's a system. A hidden financial machine the wealthy quietly use every day. A loop that keeps multiplying money again and again. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how that loop works. And once you see it, you'll realize something uncomfortable. Most people spend their entire lives working for money, but the wealthy spend their lives building systems where money works for them. This is called the wealth loop, and it explains how a single dollar can eventually become 100 or even a million. Let me tell you a simple story. Two friends graduate from university. Let's call them David and William. Both get jobs. Both earn about the same salary. Both start with almost nothing. In their first month of work, each of them has an extra $1 left over. Not much, just $1. David buys a snack. Tunde does something different. He invests it. Now, obviously, $1 won't change his life. But here's what matters. Tunde just entered the wealth loop. David did not. Fast forward 10 years. David is still working, still earning, still spending. Tunde's money has quietly started working, and something fascinating begins happening. Every dollar Tunde earns creates another dollar working for him. This is the beginning of the wealth loop. But let's look closer at Tunde's journey, because wealth isn't a straight line. It's a series of levels. In those first 3 years, Tunde didn't look rich. In fact, David looked richer. David used his extra cash to upgrade his lifestyle, better clothes, a newer phone, weekend trips. Tunde, however, was obsessed with the seed. He knew that every dollar was a worker. If he spent it, that worker was dead. If he invested it, that worker would have children, and those children would have grandchildren. By year 3, Tunde had saved enough to buy his first 50 shares of a low-cost index fund. Every quarter, that fund paid out a small dividend, maybe only $15. David laughed. $15? That's a sandwich, Tunde. Why bother? But Tunde didn't see a sandwich. He saw a free worker. He took that $15 and used it to buy more shares. He was no longer just using his salary to buy assets. His assets were now buying more assets. The loop had officially closed for the first time. By year 5, the gap between the two friends was becoming visible, but not in the way you'd think. David was stressed. He had lifestyle creep. His higher salary meant higher bills. He was running faster just to stay in the same place. Tunde, meanwhile, had reached a milestone, the $10,000 mark. With $10,000 in his investment account, the math started to change. At a 10% annual return, his money was now earning $1,000 a year without him lifting a finger. That's nearly $100 a month of free money. Tunde didn't buy a new car. Instead, he used that $10,000 as a down payment on a small, undervalued, fixer-upper rental property in a developing neighborhood. By year 7, now Tunde had 2 engines running. 1, his monthly contributions from his job. 2, the rental income from his property. After paying the mortgage and taxes, the property put an extra $300 in his pocket every month. This is the aha moment in the wealth loop. Tunde took the $300 and channeled it back into his stock portfolio. He was now buying 10 to 20 shares of dividend-paying companies every single month, not from his salary, but from his rental profit. 10 years in, the wealth loop became a wealth tornado. Tunde's stock portfolio had grown to $100,000 through consistent reinvestment and market growth. His rental property had increased in value, and he used the equity to buy a second property. David, on the other hand, hit a crisis. He lost his job for 3 months. Because he had no loop, he had no floor. He had to sell his belongings and take on high interest debt just to survive. Tunde's loop didn't care about the job market. His dividends kept hitting his account. His tenants kept paying rent. His workers were out there 24/7, harvesting more dollars. By year 15, Tunde's investments were earning more than his original starting salary. This is the ultimate goal of the loop, the crossover point. When the income from your assets exceeds your cost of living, you are no longer a participant in the economy. You are an owner of it. David spent 15 years working for the dollar. Tunde spent 5 years building the loop and the next 10 years watching the loop work for him. Same $1 start, totally different destinations. Most people think wealth comes from big money moves, huge investments, massive salaries, winning businesses. But in reality, wealth almost always starts with something much smaller, a repeatable cycle. The wealth loop works like this. 1. Earn money. 2. Save part of it. 3. Invest it. 4. Let that investment produce more money. 5. Reinvest the profit. 6. Repeat. Over and over and over again. At first it looks boring, small, slow, but once the loop starts spinning, something incredible happens. Money begins multiplying faster than your effort. That's when $1 begins turning into $100. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never enter the loop at all because they live inside a completely different cycle, a cycle called the consumption loop. It looks like this. 1. Earn money. 2. Spend money. 3. Earn more money. 4. Spend more money. Repeat forever. Nothing multiplies. Nothing compounds. The money simply passes through their hands, like water through a pipe. And this is why two people earning the same salary can end up with wildly different financial lives. One is consuming, the other is compounding. Now, there is a secret variable in the wealth loop that most people miss. It's called the velocity of money. Most people think saving is like a lake. You just pour water in and let it sit. But the wealthy look at money like a river. For $1 to become $100, that dollar has to move. Let's look at two different investors. Investor A puts $1,000 into a savings account. It sits. It grows by 1% a year. That money is lazy. It's barely moving. Investor B takes that same $1,000. They use it to buy a piece of equipment for a small side business. That equipment generates $200 in profit every month. In 5 months, they have their $1,000 back, and they still own the equipment. They then take that $1,000 and buy another asset. In 1 year, Investor A has $1,010. Investor B has $2,400 in cash flow plus assets. The difference? Velocity. The wealthy don't just store money, they deploy it. They ask, how quickly can I get this dollar to go out, grab a friend, and come back to me? This is why the rich seem to get richer so fast. Their loop isn't just big, it's fast. They are constantly looking for frictions that slow down their loop. Taxes, high fees, and stagnant accounts are frictions. To turn $1 into $100, you have to keep the money moving into higher velocity assets. The first secret the wealthy understand is ownership, not income. Ownership. There is a huge difference. When you earn money from a job, you are trading time for money. But when you own assets, something different happens. Those assets begin producing income without requiring your time. For example, owning stocks means you own pieces of companies. Owning property means you own income-producing land. Owning businesses means profits flow to you. The wealthy focus relentlessly on acquiring assets, not just earning income, because income feeds the loop, but assets spin the loop. Let's break this down with a realistic example. Imagine someone invests $100 into a simple index fund. Historically, markets have returned roughly 8 to 10% annually over long periods. That means after 1 year, $100 becomes roughly $110. Not impressive, but here's where the loop begins. Next year, the return applies not to $100, but $110, then $121, then $133, then $146. The growth begins accelerating. This process is known as compound growth, and it is the engine behind the wealth loop. Picture a snowball rolling down a hill. At first it's tiny, almost nothing, but as it rolls, snow sticks to it. The ball grows larger, which means it gathers snow faster, which makes it grow even larger. Eventually, the snowball becomes unstoppable. This is exactly how wealth grows. At first, it feels painfully slow, but eventually it becomes self-accelerating. This is why wealthy people often seem to get richer faster and faster over time. It's not magic, it's the loop. There's a saying in finance, the first $100,000 is the hardest. And it's absolutely true. Because at the beginning, you are the engine. Your job creates the money. Your discipline saves it. Your decisions invest it. But once enough assets accumulate, something changes. Your money starts generating meaningful income on its own. At that point, the loop begins spinning without your constant effort. Once wealthy people establish the loop, they introduce something powerful: leverage. Leverage simply means using resources beyond your own money or time to accelerate growth. There are 3 primary forms of leverage used by the wealthy. 1. Financial leverage. 2. Business leverage. 3. Technological leverage. Each one multiplies the power of the wealth loop. Financial leverage means using borrowed money to control larger assets. Real estate investors do this constantly. Imagine buying a $200,000 property. You might only put down $20,000, but if the property increases by 10%, the gain applies to the entire $200,000 value, not just your $20,000. Suddenly, your investment grows far faster. Used wisely, leverage accelerates the wealth loop dramatically. Used poorly, it destroys wealth, which is why the wealthy use leverage strategically and cautiously. The second form is business leverage. This is where entrepreneurs create systems that generate income without requiring their constant presence. For example, a software product can sell to thousands of customers. A digital course can be purchased repeatedly. A platform can generate revenue while the owner sleeps. Business leverage allows income to grow without a direct increase in labor. This feeds more fuel into the wealth loop. The third form is technology. Technology allows one idea to reach millions of people instantly. This is why creators, entrepreneurs, and investors today can build wealth faster than previous generations. One video, one app, one piece of software, one online store. This can generate income repeatedly without additional effort. Technology makes the loop spin faster than ever before. To make the wealth loop work, you need to understand the 3 different engines you can attach to your money. Engine 1, the appreciation engine. This is where you buy something today and it's worth more tomorrow. Think of land, gold, or a piece of a growing company, stocks. You aren't necessarily getting paid every month, but your net worth is growing. This is the slow and steady part of the loop. Engine 2, the cash flow engine. This is the most vital part of the wealth loop. Cash flow is money that hits your bank account while you sleep. Rental income from a property, dividends from stocks, or royalties from a book. The magic happens when you take the cash flow from Engine 2 and use it to buy more of Engine 1. This creates a self-sustaining cycle. Engine 3, the intellectual engine. This is the most undervalued asset in the world, you. The wealthy invest in their own skills because a skill is an asset that cannot be taxed, stolen, or inflated away. If you spend $500 on a course that teaches you a skill that earns you an extra $1,000 a month for the rest of your life, that is a return on investment that no stock market can beat. The wealth loop reaches maximum power when you use your intellectual engine to create cash flow, which you then dump into appreciation assets. Here's something fascinating. If you study wealthy individuals, you'll notice a consistent habit. They rarely celebrate income increases. Instead, they celebrate asset acquisition. Because income can disappear, jobs can vanish, but assets continue producing value. This mindset difference is subtle but powerful. Average people ask, "How much did I earn this year?" Wealth builders ask, "How many assets did I acquire?" That single mindset shift changes everything. Now we reach the most important stage of the loop: reinvestment. This is where many people break the cycle. Because once investments begin producing income, there is temptation to spend it. A dividend arrives, a profit is made, a business earns money. Most people withdraw it, but the wealthy often reinvest it. They feed profits back into the loop, which multiplies growth even faster. This is how $1 eventually becomes $100. Here's something that shocks many people. Most of the wealth created through compounding happens in the final years. For example, if an investment grows for 30 years, almost half of the final value may occur in the last 5 to 7 years, which means patience is not just helpful, it's essential. The wealth loop rewards time in the system, not constant jumping in and out. However, there is one trap that destroys the wealth loop faster than anything else: lifestyle inflation. This happens when income rises, and spending rises even faster. A promotion arrives, a new car follows, a bonus arrives, a bigger house follows. Every increase in income is immediately consumed. The loop never gains momentum. The wealthy avoid this trap by maintaining a gap between income and lifestyle. That gap becomes investment fuel. But here's the part most people never learn. The truly wealthy don't just rely on one loop, they build multiple loops running simultaneously. Investment loops, business loops, asset loops, each feeding the others. And when those loops start working together, wealth stops growing linearly. It begins growing exponentially. If the wealth loop is so simple, why isn't everyone a millionaire? It's because there are wealth killers, hidden leaks in the system that drain your loop before it can compound. The first killer is the tax leak. Most people work for earned income, the most heavily taxed form of money. The wealthy focus on capital gains or passive income, which are often taxed at a lower rate. If you lose 30% of your loop to taxes every year, your $1 will never reach $100. Learning the legal ways to protect your loop is just as important as growing it. The second killer is the ego purchase. This is different from lifestyle inflation. An ego purchase is buying something specifically to look like you've already won. You buy the Rolex before you own the clock factory. Every time you take money out of the loop to look rich, you're killing the children of your dollars. Those $100 you spent on a fancy dinner could have been $10,000 in 20 years. The wealthy are happy to stay anonymous while they build enormous power. The third killer is the boredom reset. Compounding is boring. It feels like watching paint dry for the first 5 years. Many people get bored and reset their loop. They sell their investments to buy a new car, or they jump from one strategy to another. Every time you switch strategies, you reset the clock. To turn $1 into $100, you must have the discipline to be bored. Think of wealth like a financial ecosystem. Not a single investment, not a single business, but a network of money-generating systems. Each system feeds the others. A simple example might look like this. A job provides income. Part of that income buys assets. Those assets produce cash flow. That cash flow buys more assets. Those new assets create even more income. Eventually, the ecosystem becomes self-sustaining. This is when the wealth loop evolves into a wealth machine, The first upgrade wealthy people make is creating multiple income streams. Most people rely on only one source of income, their job, which is extremely fragile. If that income disappears, the entire system collapses. But wealth builders gradually add new streams. For example, salary, income, investment income, business income, digital income, rental income, dividend income. Each stream feeds the wealth loop, and when several streams exist simultaneously, something powerful happens. Your financial stability increases dramatically. Imagine wealth like a river system. At first, there is only one small stream, your job. But over time, more streams begin feeding the river. Investments, side businesses, assets, dividends. Eventually, the river becomes powerful enough to flow without rainfall. This is financial independence, when the river flows, even when you stop working. The asset ladder. The wealthy also follow something called the asset ladder. Instead of jumping directly to massive investments, they climb step by step. Level 1 might be small investments, index funds, ETFs, savings. Level 2 could include larger investments, stocks, digital businesses, rental properties. Level 3 involves scalable assets, companies, technology platforms, investment portfolios. Each step produces more capital to climb to the next step. The ladder itself becomes part of the wealth loop. Let's walk through a realistic example. A young professional begins saving $200 every month. At first, it feels insignificant, but after a few years, that savings becomes an investment portfolio. The portfolio starts producing dividends. Those dividends are reinvested. Eventually, the portfolio grows large enough to fund a small business idea. That business begins generating profit. The profits go back into investments. Now there are two loops operating simultaneously, the investment loop and the business loop. Years later, the combined growth becomes enormous, not because of one decision, but because each loop feeds the others. Time is the silent partner of the wealth loop. Most people underestimate how powerful time truly is. They want results immediately, but wealth rewards consistency over decades. A person who invests modest amounts consistently over 20 to 30 years often outperforms someone who tries to get rich quickly, because the loop keeps spinning. Month after month, year after year, and compounding quietly multiplies everything. Here is a surprising fact. Many millionaires do not earn extraordinary salaries. What they do instead is extremely consistent. They follow the wealth loop relentlessly. They invest regularly, they reinvest profits, they avoid destroying the loop through reckless spending. This discipline may seem boring, but boring systems build extraordinary results. There is a long stage of wealth building that few people talk about, the invisible phase. During this period, it may look like nothing is happening. Investments grow slowly, assets accumulate gradually, progress appears minimal. But beneath the surface, the wealth loop is strengthening. Eventually, the system reaches a tipping point, and growth becomes visible and dramatic. Think of bamboo trees. For years after planting, almost nothing appears above the ground, but beneath the soil, an enormous root system develops. Then suddenly the bamboo shoots upward rapidly. Financial compounding behaves the same way. The early years feel slow. Then growth accelerates dramatically. Those who quit early never see the bamboo grow. Those who stay consistent eventually witness explosive results. The greatest challenge in wealth building is not mathematics. It is psychology. Fear causes people to sell investments too early. Excitement causes them to chase risky opportunities. Impatience causes them to abandon the loop before it works. The wealthy learn to control these emotions. They follow systems, they trust long-term strategies, and they allow time to do the heavy lifting. Another secret of the wealthy is surprisingly simple. They maintain control over lifestyle, even when income rises. This creates something extremely powerful: a widening investment gap. If someone earns $5,000 monthly and spends $4,900, very little remains to feed the loop. But if someone earns $5,000 and spends $3,000, the remaining $2,000 becomes investment fuel. Over time, this gap creates enormous momentum. Many wealth builders remove decision fatigue by automating their loop. Investments occur automatically. Savings transfer automatically. Reinvestments happen automatically. Automation ensures the loop continues spinning even when motivation fades. This is one of the simplest but most powerful wealth strategies. Because consistency beats intensity, at the highest level, wealth becomes less about money and more about systems. Systems that generate value, systems that multiply capital, systems that operate without constant effort. The richest individuals in the world focus relentlessly on building these systems, because systems can scale infinitely. Time cannot. The truth is simple: turning $1 into $100 is not about luck. It's about entering the loop, staying in the loop, and allowing time and discipline to do the work. Anyone can start the loop. Few people stay patient enough to see it work, but those who do often achieve financial freedom far beyond what they imagined. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is spending their last dollar on something temporary, and someone else is investing their first dollar into the wealth loop. 10 years from now, their lives will look completely different. Not because one person was smarter, but because one person chose multiplication over consumption. The question is simple: which one will you be? If this video changed how you see money, then you're exactly the type of person this channel was created for, because here on Natalie Invests, we break down the strategies, systems, and mindsets that help ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. No hype, no gambling, just proven financial principles that quietly transform lives over time. So if you want to learn how to build powerful investment systems, how to create income streams that work while you sleep, and how to design your own personal wealth loop, then subscribe to Natalie Invests right now. Because the earlier you enter the loop, the faster your future begins compounding. And remember, the best time to start building wealth was yesterday. The second best time is today.